So you've probably always timed sexual activity for the 14th day of your menstrual cycle, because most textbooks and articles you have read or even videos you've listened to make it look like 28 days is the ideal menstrual cycle length and the 14th day of the cycle ovulation. So a normal menstrual cycle length, which is the time from the beginning of one period to the beginning of another period, isn't just 28 days, but can be anywhere between 21 to 35 days. So if your cycle length falls anywhere within this number of days, not 28 days, then you definitely are not ovulating on the 14th day. It's also possible you've downloaded and relied on several cycle tracking apps to predict your ovulation, but that hasn't worked either. Better still, you finally learned the calendar-based method, but can't seem to predict ovulation correctly because your cycle isn't exactly regular. Some months you have menstrual cycle lengths of 28 days, other months is 30 or even 35. You're tired and have given up. Well, all hope isn't lost. You need to do more to be able to predict your ovulation accurately in order to achieve pregnancy. And by doing more, I mean you have to do more than marking your calendars or waiting on applications using algorithms to predict to you. What you should be using is a method that uses a number of fertility awareness signs to track the different stages of your menstrual cycle. Now, this method has been found to better predict fertile periods, safe periods, ovulation, onset of periods, and the different phases of the menstrual cycle. And it can even show menstrual cycle problems. So what are these signs and how do you chart them? My name is Stephanie Young, the health teacher and MD here at Health Platforms, a center providing comprehensive health education and quality preventive healthcare services for women. And I'll be teaching you how to chart your menstrual cycle to achieve pregnancy using the TTC menstrual cycle charts. The first sign is your temperature. Now, due to the different hormonal changes our bodies go through, your temperature changes alongside. When you keep track of this vital sign regularly, you're able to see when and if ovulation occurred, if it is delayed, when your next period is most likely to start, and so much more information. Now, there are rules to it. You don't just take your temperature at any time or use any kind of device. You use a basal body thermometer. You take your temperature every morning, first thing as soon as you wake up, before you turn or even talk to your spouse. Yeah, it's that serious. And that's because your basal body temperature is your resting temperature. It has to be as accurate as possible. Now, in most women, just before ovulation, your temperature dips a bit. And once ovulation happens, there's usually a spike in temperature in about 24 hours. As a result of the rise in levels of the hormone progesterone, and it stays up until your next period starts. So let's check Jennifer's chart to see what I mean. This is a printable paper chart for TTC women. Now, this is Jennifer's chart showing her temperature throughout her cycle. So Jennifer wakes up every morning and the first thing she does is take her temperature orally. Now, this gives her readings which she imputes into her chart, just like you can see here, and then she draws lines to connect them. So if you look closely, you'll notice a significant change in her temperature readings right here. Of course, there's a dip in her temperature right here and a rise 24 hours later. This shows that Jennifer ovulated on the 17th day of her cycle. On the 17th day of her cycle, the temperature readings do not predict ovulation, but rather it confirms it, because you have to study this chart to see that ovulation has occurred post-ovulation. You need to chart at least one more sign to predict your ovulation, and I'll be explaining as we move on. So it's important to know that there are factors that can influence the accuracy of your temperature readings. Things like taking alcohol, sleep deprivation, travel, sickness, and a number of health conditions. The second is using your cervical fluid or mucus. Why is the cervical fluid a vital sign, and how is it used? So this sign is called the cervical fluid or mucus rather, what many of us call vaginal discharge. The production is stimulated by the estrogen hormone and it is secreted by the cervix. So why is it important in a woman's fertility? That's because it helps in transporting sperm from the vagina to the uterus. So as estrogen levels rises, cervical fluid progresses from one type to the other, with the most fertile quality women report being egg white. It's produced as estrogen levels reaches its peak. So there's increasing wetness as you approach ovulation. Really, it just depends on how your body reacts to the estrogen hormone, because ideally, they say it progresses from dry after your menstrual period to sticky, creamy, and then the egg white around the time of ovulation. But for some women, it doesn't exactly happen in this progression. You have to chart and study yours to know what's unique to you. That's your own unique pattern. So when you begin to study your cervical mucus through the different phases of the menstrual cycle, you'll be able to tell when you're fertile or not, the days leading up to your ovulation, and afterwards when you become safe again. So now when you combine this with your temperature readings in your chart, it becomes very easy to predict and actually pinpoint your ovulation. I mean, if you have all of this information, how empowering can that be? Still using Jennifer's chart here, you can see how she represented the feel of her cervical fluid throughout her cycle. The feel changes, and while many women may have similar symptoms, yours is unique to you. You can see how she represented hers here. It moves from dry from after her periods to sticky to when she reported sticky and creamy, and then it becomes fully creamy until she started to begin to notice egg white just before her ovulation. Now she had egg white on one day, egg white and a bit of watery on the day before ovulation and the day of ovulation. So like I said earlier, your pattern is definitely unique to you. So you just have to understand what yours is. With this information and her temperature readings, as you can see, she definitely can confirm ovulation. I mean, you can see how she engaged in sexual activity days during her fertile window. These little love icons show when she engaged in sexual activity. If you're like many other women, differentiating between a vaginal discharge that is normal and that which isn't is a problem. So many of us have gone to the clinic and diagnostic centers to run the same test over and over again, and they keep telling you everything is fine and you just can't understand it. Nothing is wrong. It's your cervical mucus just trying to pass the message across to you, telling you whether or not you're fertile. I guess you already know it's advised that you have sex regularly, like every other day, if you're looking to achieve pregnancy. It's great advice. If you can do it, why not? It will probably be your best option because at every point there'll be a sperm waiting to be fertilized once ovulation occurs. But what if you're just not that person and you can't keep up? This will help you maximize lovemaking. That way it doesn't feel like it's routine. And the third, which is optional, is your cervical position, which shows you both fertile and infertile times. Did you know that you can feel the position of your cervix? Probably not. So I'll just tell you a short story. Some time ago, a lady reached out to me. She messaged me, across all my social media handles, and she seemed really worried. What was the problem? She had inserted her finger into her vagina while having her bath and felt something really hard. She had gone for a scan and everything else, but there was nothing. When we got talking, I asked a few questions and she answered honestly. It was in that conversation I noticed she had just felt her cervix. Your cervix connects your vagina to your uterus, that is your womb. I counseled her and explained how the position of the cervix changes at different phases of the menstrual cycle, and she began to keep track of it. So the position of your cervix is not the same when you're fertile and when you're not. During ovulation, it is soft, high up, open, and wet, while other times when you're not fertile, it is firm, low, closed, and of course not wet. So these signs are there. You just have to start keeping track of it to be able to understand it. I mean, when I discuss with my students, once they finish chatting their first cycle with my guidance, of course, the feedback always cracks me up. So you hear things like, I can't believe all this has been going on in my body without my knowledge. This thing is pretty easy. So 30 years of my life, I had no idea I could do this. They're always in awe. So no one will do this for you. You have to put in the work, and once you get a hang of it, that's it. It becomes a way of life. It's pretty easy. Here's one I like a lot. After asking her how she felt, getting to see the signs, and also chatting them herself, she says it's really amazing getting to see the different changes on different days every day. I'm like, wow, I have missed all these years. Oh. And here's why I like this even more. She says, but like they say, it's better late than never. So it's not too late for you to begin to learn how to chart your menstrual cycle the right way with a more effective method. And then lastly, you have the ovulation prediction kits called OPKs, ovulation prediction kits or ovulation test strips, at home test kits you can use to determine when you ovulate. So it tests for LH. LH short for luteinizing hormone. Now, it's the hormone that signals the ovary to release an egg. The strips look exactly like the pregnancy test strips. You also have devices used for the same purpose. Of course, they're more pricey, but they basically do the work. With the strips, you either take the urine in a cup and dip it in, or you pee on it for a few seconds and wait for the result. A single line would mean the test is negative, and a double line would mean it is positive, and ovulation is set to occur in the next 12 to 36 hours. So this is an OPK result sheet showing the test results. This comes together with the TTC chart. With this, you can see when you get your LH surge. So you can see here, this lady gets her first positive on the 15th day of her cycle, and that informed her that she'll be ovulating in the next 12 to 36 hours and she'll get to work. So these strips are very much available in pharmacies close to you. The first 3 signs I discussed in this video are called the primary fertility signs: basal body temperature, cervical fluid or mucus, and cervical position. So there are also secondary fertility signs like breast tenderness and sensitivity, abdominal pain, increased sexual desire, spotting, and even abdominal bloating. Some women experience this, but it is not enough to assume you are ovulating because you experience these signs. You have to confirm using the primary fertility sign. Studying and understanding how your body works is the best gift you can actually give yourself. It is empowering. Imagine first learning this method, understanding it, and then combining at least 2 of these methods. You will definitely be in charge of your fertility. So you can learn how to detect your ovulation correctly when you're trying to conceive, whether or not your cycle is regular. You just need to understand the signs, learn how to chart them, and continuously keep track of it, of course. So guess what? Charting will also show you irregularities with your cycle. Perhaps you're not ovulating or your ovulation is delayed. You can definitely see it in your chart, and it can help you in the process of finding a solution with your doctor. Now you have all of this information. What can you do? You can choose to go by the symptohormonal method, that is taking your tracking your cervical mucus and using hormonal tests at home. In this case, you won't be taking your temperature, or you can choose to use the symptothermal method that involves using your temperature in addition to at least 2 other signs. It all depends on you. Here's another testimonial. This student says, signs I ignored because I didn't know their meanings are now signs I know and what they mean. God bless you. I love you this much. You can see how she opened her arms. She really loves me so much. So we have resources to help you as you start the journey of charting your menstrual cycle to achieve your goal. We have printable 1-page TTC charts, OPK result sheets to go along with them, and step-by-step video lessons to guide you with. Learn to understand and chart your cycle using your basal body temperature, your cervical fluid and mucus, your cervical position, ovulation prediction kits, and secondary fertility signs as well, amongst other things. So you can find these and more using the link below this video. Enough of the wrong predictions or not even knowing how to calculate your own ovulation and fertile periods. So relying on methods and apps that don't work for you isn't good in that sense. So do you have any more questions? Use the link below this video to either book a consultation with me or send me a message. I answer all the questions myself, really. Make the decision to be in charge of your fertility today. Cheers. Bye.